Hi, folks. This is Nicole from Asheville Wellness Stores. We're excited to bring you the latest episode in our weekly series, Bite-Sized Moments of Zen. An invitation to pause wherever you are and whenever you can, and enjoy insights, practices, and tips from local wellness experts from our living rooms and the Salt Cave in Asheville, North Carolina, to you. I'm really excited to have you here. Today, I'm introducing Jodie Appel, the owner of the Asheville Salt Cave. I'm really excited that we get a kind of behind-the-scenes glimpse at a beautiful place that I know we all want to visit as soon as we can. And she's going to share some massage techniques with us that we can do from home for ourselves and for each other until we can go back to the spa. I'm really excited to have you, Jodie. Hello, thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for bringing this to our community and to the world, really, because this is now viral. So
I'm excited to see all of you and just to get these little glimpses and these little moments where we can pause. I think it's really important right now. And we'll jump right in. I'll ask you what you do and how you came to do it.
Yeah, so we own this beautiful, amazing space, my family and I. It's Asheville Salt Cave. We've recently moved to a new location in Asheville into a really beautiful building and have expanded our services. And really looking forward to the community to be able to come back to enjoy this space with us. And we do kind of a full circle wellness offering. We have massages that we do here. We offer event classes, and we are in the process of finishing out our hammam service, which is loosely based off of a Turkish or a Moroccan steam bathhouse experience. So that'll be really lovely. That we're excited to open that when people come back in. And then our main service, of course, is the Salt Cave, which is probably at this time about 30 tons of salt in this particular room, and we have another one as well. And it's just kind of a quiet breathing treatment, sort of time to take out of our busy days and sort of let the body rest and repair. Salt has a number of different minerals in it. It has about 84 elements that can help balance out the body in a lot of different ways, from respiratory issues to skin conditions or digestive disorders, circulatory problems. So it kind of runs all the gamuts of the body. And I do what I do because I love helping people. I've recently learned about Enneagrams. I don't know if anybody out there is familiar with that, but I think I am the helper. I love to help people, and I feel like this is my very small way of being able to help people learn about preventative care, learn about just self-care as a general practice, taking time to decompress in our busy lives, even when we can't get out of our homes. We're all on computers right now, trying to educate ourselves or do things for ourselves. So yeah, same kind of concept of just sort of taking it down a couple levels. So yeah, hopefully that
We talk about the Salt Cave a lot as Asheville Wellness Stores when we have guests coming in. And, you know, a lot of people, one of the main questions I get is, what do you do? And I love answering that question. The answer is, you don't have to do anything. You relax. It's a permission to just be in a space and a container in which you can breathe and enjoy benefits without having to do anything. It's just that permission in space.
Yeah, I love that, because I feel like we're always like, why do we have to do something, right? Like, why is that even the question? Like, what do you do? It's like, you pause, you take a breath, and subtly you get these amazing benefits that come with that. Whether you get something from the salt or you get something from just quieting yourself, is really, you get a benefit.
Yeah, gosh, what a beautiful, unique space to do it in too. I love peeking into the cave right now.
Thanks. We're super excited to be in this new space. It's such a beautiful location, and we've been outside in the gardens planting, which has been really nice. So hopefully that will come back as part of our practice here of self-care.
Yeah. I love it. And you touched on this already, kind of what's at the heart of the mission. I'm wondering how you came to choose a salt cave, or like what drew you to salt in this?
Yeah. So as I was sharing, this is sort of a family business. So my entire parents, brother, sister are all involved in some way, shape, or form. And so my father is really the driving force behind the Salt Cave happening. I had been a practitioner for about 15 years doing massage for animals and people, hydrotherapy, things along those lines. And he had gone to a similar facility in Williamsburg. And he has really bad asthma, allergies, and unfortunately he had a punctured lung from a pretty bad car accident at one point in his life. So a lot of breathing issues. And it was raining in Williamsburg, and they called me. They were like, what should we do? There's this thing called a salt cave. And I was like, funny enough, I think that sounds kind of hokey, but sure, it sounds like he had said that, like, it talks about lungs and respiratory issues and things. And I was like, okay, I mean, it's like $25, you should give it a shot. And so he went in, and I'm pretty sure he picked up the phone after he probably bought out the entire store because he loved it so much. And he just chatted for probably about 3 hours about how much he loved it and how cool it was and all these things. And I was like, that's cool. And they came down here for a visit. They left. He gets home, and probably about 2 weeks later, my mom calls, and she's like, so your dad hasn't really had to use his rescue inhaler in, like, his pharmaceutical rescue inhaler in like 2.5 weeks or so. And the only thing we can kind of contribute it to is that we did this experience, and that even took my dad more over the moon for being able to be so helpful to his breathing. And so, yeah, from there, it just kind of continued to chat about the idea and what that would look like. And I think it took us probably about 5 or 6 years to do my own research, make sure I truly believed in it, because I think that's really an important level of, like, what I do to offer the world. And then find the location and kind of find the builder and make all that happen. So yeah, I think it took us about 5 to 6 years to navigate all of that from the moment he had gone to opening our first location, which was in downtown. So yeah, wow. Super grateful for him that he's kind of the driving force behind this.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, and I love the idea that it's almost by accident. It really was by accident. You know, there's like a tiny seed of an idea planted of self-care and wellness as a worthy thing to pursue on a rainy day in Williamsburg, but really
and my dad, yeah, super. My dad, interestingly enough, is a pharmacist. So, like, holistic care was not even like his driving force of, like, oh, there's this neat thing to do. Like, it was totally, out of the blue. So I love that. Like, the synchronicity of one random thing happening led to this amazingness.
Yeah, that's great. And I love too that knowing you can try these little things, and maybe that experience didn't resonate with him, and you know, he had an opportunity to relax and pause, and then he moved on. But look where it led. I mean, I love that idea of, you just never know that some big moment in your life may be coming if we just take a moment to
like, insignificant, you feel like, moment.
Totally. Those little seeds are planting in your garden right now. I mean, like, who knows what those seeds, like, maybe inspire someone to grow their own herb garden, and we just don't know. We don't know. And that's so hopeful to me. I feel like that's really,
for sure. Yeah, I'm deeply grateful for my family's support in making this somewhat of a dream become a reality, because it's pretty magical. And what a beauty to watch. You know, yes, that's my family story, but I get tons of people when people can come in, calling, writing letters, telling us about their experiences of what has shifted for them realistically. Sometimes it's physical, sometimes it's mental, sometimes it's creative blocks, sometimes it's spiritual blocks. And it's just like, it's so wide range where it blows me away, where sometimes I'm like, wow, like, that's so great that I get to affect people in such a wide variety and not just, I don't know, pinpointed specifics. So.
Yeah, I think that's a really nice segue too into your past as a massage therapist and your kind of foundational practice. You're going to share with us today some things that we can do at home in the meantime before we can come and see your team to do it for us. Help us all.
Give you some support, hopefully. I'm super excited to share some of these. Really, anything I show you that is going to be on your own body can really be effective on a partner if you're quarantined with somebody, even if it's your children or your pet, probably be utilized on. I usually just say, like, we know what feels really good to us. You'll know that internally inside when you are working on yourself about pressure and what feels good, what's too hard, can you handle that harder? when we're working on someone else, maybe a little more challenging with a pet, but with a person that can talk, it's really good to do a check-in with them to make sure that you're not going too hard, or maybe you can go harder and they're really able to take some more of that pressure. And even as a massage therapist, we always are trying to check in with our clients to make sure that that's available to be heard. So always checking in with whoever you're working on to really make sure you're giving them the relief that they need and you're not harming them any further into a pain or discomfort. So yeah, love to preface with that. So maybe the first thing I want to share is, so as you and I were chatting the other day, lots of people probably have some kind of tool in and around their home that some great aunt bought them from like Sharper Image that they never use, and it's sitting on their shelf and they're not exactly sure what to do with it, or they pull it out, I don't know, once a year and use it. I'm guilty of that. If you think you might have one at your house, it's a great time to kind of think about bringing that tool back out. They look all sorts of different ways. But there's also probably things in your home that you don't even realize that maybe could be used as a tool to kind of help alleviate the body. But to show you a couple ideas, so you might have a tool that might kind of look like this little guy. He's kind of a trigger point tool if somebody ever had one of those. Also, I feel like these are a little bit more coming into the popularity. So these are, I think they're called rad balls. I'm not exactly sure their technical name, but they're a little bit soft, kind of maybe like a tennis ball would be a nice other alternative. And these have been really great to utilize kind of also as pressure point tools. So we'll kind of walk through some of those. And then my last one is, I have something like this in my home. This is per se called 𝐋𝐢𝐬𝐭𝐜𝐡. You probably have maybe something like this tool. If you do, this is a great tool to bring out as well. These are lots of different pressure point kind of tips that you can utilize in different areas of the body. So we'll kind of talk through a couple of those in a moment. But one thing I think I'd like to share a little bit is, so during this time, I'm going to say the I statement. I'm feeling like there's a lot of hunching in. I'm a lot of protecting my heart. Maybe my shoulders are kind of coming up by my ears. So there's a lot of like not normal body posture happening. I'm really kind of closing in a lot and kind of doing protective, maybe even of my throat chakra and things like that. So maybe being aware of our posture as we are kind of working a little bit through some of these techniques. And knowing like maybe your neck or your back on this side is kind of sore, and it may be because really you're kind of closing in on your heart and shortening this muscle where you're lengthening that muscle. So being kind of aware of what the body is contracting and what it's expanding, and that can really kind of give your mind a little bit of where are my muscles being pulled from. Like, is my shoulder hurting in the back, but it might be really starting from this area. So you don't want to just work the back. You're going to also want to work some of the front pressure points as well. Same if it's a low back, like maybe your core muscles are being shrunk because you're shrinking over instead of kind of pulling into the back side of the body and lengthening the front side of the body. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So yeah, being kind of conscious and aware of what the posture is throughout your day realistically, but maybe especially in the exercise that we're going to walk through. So let's see, one other thing I like to do before, kind of like any massage therapist, we don't just kind of take our tool or our arm and start digging in, because that's kind of not very comfortable. If you could imagine that feeling of just like there's no warming up or no kneading of the muscle. And so you can do that a couple of different ways. It can be kind of the movement, the stretching from side to side. It can be front to back. Another, stretching is great. I love stretching. It's such a great tool. Another one that I find that a lot of people don't really talk about that I love to share is a great way to loosen the body. It's a technique called Traeger, which is really about shaking. And the way it works is, if you can think about like, let's think about kids. So like kids when they're playing, like they just sort of like flail their arms, they flail them all around, they're moving their bodies. They don't really think about the process, right? Like they're just sort of like, that feels good, I'm gonna move my arm like that. Or maybe you were looking at like your dog, like he's playing getting chased and then he sort of shakes off and everything kind of like moves and kind of gets settled again. So it's kind of this technique. And so it's about just like kind of loosening your muscles and not being like, oh, I'm going to move my head to the right and then I'm going to move it back. It's like, just like, give it a good shake. Good. Shake it out. You'll probably hear some popping and some moving, which is great. That's what you want. And, you know, you're not going to try to force anything or push anything too much. So yeah, it's a nice way to really loosen up the body. If you're standing up, you can kick your legs or your feet. So yeah, it's a great first tool to kind of wake up the nerves a little bit, make some softness kind of happen before you like, I'm going to dig that tool in. So it's a great other way to kind of just loosen it. And then talking about hands, and I know that when you think about if you're not a massage therapist, giving somebody a massage for an hour, people are like, I can't do that. My hands don't work like that. Well, tips for the people that don't know this, but massage therapists don't use their hands either the whole time. They do use their hands a lot, but there are other parts of the body that we use. So we use our fists a lot. Sometimes we use our elbows. Sometimes we just use like a pressure point of like a finger pushing in instead of this like, oh, I have to do this kind of gripping, pulling, pushing motion. So using your hands, but also using different parts of your hands to get that pressure is always great. So let's say if we're going to talk about kind of the neck and shoulder. So I'm kind of getting myself loose. I've done my little movement a little bit, you know, just giving yourself, starting with some of those pinches, kind of from the crick of your neck here all the way out to the shoulder as far as you can grab. Sometimes within that, I'll even move my neck a little bit to help soften, or maybe I'll move my shoulder a little bit if I feel like I can't grasp it or pull up on that muscle a little bit. So whatever is feeling good, and again, it's like you checking in with your body of what feels appropriate, what feels like, do you want more or do you want less in that? Another good tool when we're working on ourselves and others is to remind us to breathe. I feel like that's like probably a good 95% of massage. We don't breathe enough. Sometimes when you find that like trigger point, that kind of juicy spot where you're like, that you hit it, that's the spot, right? And you want to let that go. If you can continue to press on that point, and at the same time using your breath to like soften that space. So like if I'm working in this area, I want to really bring my breath into this. I don't want to bring it into my belly or my chest. I want to think about bringing it into my neck or my shoulder where I'm working so I can go. I feel it. I feel that pressure up in there. I'm almost pushing myself off. So let's maybe give that a try with just a couple of those squeezes. Another thing you can do while you're using that same motion is if you sort of, like you're rubbing your hands like the money symbol, like you need some money, you can kind of utilize that same motion on your hand there, and that will kind of also be a nice little like rolling the muscle between your fingers. So wherever that feels good for you, up all the way even into the occipital ridge, which is where your neck and your skull attach. That's like a nice little area to do that same kind of motion of that, grabbing those little muscles on each side of the spine. Yeah, working your way all the way down. So it's a nice part for that upper stuff. So we talked a little bit about how on the, if you're hurting up in your backside, it might also be part of like your pec muscle, because again, we're like possibly rolling our shoulders forward and not keeping our body in alignment. And so again, kind of coming into maybe that armpit, either way, whichever feels more comfortable, and getting into that pec muscle with that same kind of motion. If you need to move it, sometimes you might, depending on your body, you might need to move your shoulder a little forward, or you might need to move it a little back. So whatever feels right in that space, because your pec muscle is going to attach to this upper bone right here. So you want to kind of get into that space, moving that around. And then we talked a little bit about press points or trigger point work. And again, this is where maybe if you have a tool and you want to use it, or you can use your thumb or your fingers, you might want to just right underneath that collarbone, all of this is kind of that pec muscle that kind of is holding us in. So some simple press points in there. Sometimes, again, I really love to move the body when I work. So moving the body at the same time gives you, when you're working on yourself, more availability to be like, oh, there's that pressure. Okay, I feel it there. Oh, I feel it when I stretch this way. If you're having someone else that you're working on, either they can move the arm or you can move that for them to give them that passive treatment. So yeah, just kind of pressing. You can do little circles with that pressing, which is really nice. And same, if I have my tool, I can do that same, see that, but I can do that same type of thing, giving that trigger point or that pressure point work. A lot of times with trigger point work, you want to hold that trigger point. If that's really uncomfortable in the space, you want to hold it for usually about a count from anywhere from 4 to 6 before letting it go. So in that 4 to 6, kind of, again, really breathing into that kind of uncomfortable or tender point so that you get that full breath wherever that trigger point is really activated. Sometimes that can be more towards the attachment sites, and sometimes that can be more towards the belly of the muscle. So really kind of thinking about where you're breathing into that space. And I just had a nice little adjustment. That felt good. I think I needed that. So maybe to talk for a moment with, if you have something like these, or if you have a tennis ball at home, these types of tools you can use while laying on the floor, which is a really nice way, so that your body weight is going to be what's going to give you that trigger point therapy work. It's not really more of that muscle pulling up and kind of maneuvering it. It's going to be more that trigger point session. You can also do this if you're standing. You can do it against a wall. Some points you might need, like maybe like the door, a jam of a door or corner of a wall to get into those little kind of corner pockets, but it's a really great little tool to kind of play with. Again, if you're a dog owner, you might have a tennis ball laying around your house that you can go and clean off, and this is a great tool. You don't have to buy this tool. I would say things that are a little too hard are going to be more like lacrosse balls, golf balls, or a little too much. You want to have something that has like a little bit of give to it so it feels good in the body. We're not trying to hurt anything in that fashion. So those are those. And then this last little tool, just to talk for a moment or so about, if you have something like this, this is a great tool. It has all of these different little knobs. And so there's a way to, if you can't reach your own back, you've got some kind of pressure point spaces here. And you just kind of pull onto that tool so that you get as much pressure as you want. This can be used kind of low back. It can really be used anywhere on the body, which is really nice. So even if you find something around your house that isn't made for massage tool and you're like, hey, that has kind of a little knob on it and that would feel really good. I mean, you think about bears in the wild, they go and scratch on a tree, right? Like they figured out how to make their own massage tool within nature. So there's probably things laying around your house that you might be like, that could be a really good feel if I can get that into that little nook of mine that has been irritating me. So yeah, so those are a couple of those tools.
I used, by the way, this little case for my earbuds.
Oh, there you go. That's perfect.
It's really smooth.
It's smooth, right? It's like something about like just being like just enough pressure to be like, oh yeah, like you'll find the thing in your room that'll be like, yeah, that's what I need to get into that space. So yeah, it's be creative in this time frame when we can't get into our therapist to really get some of those kinks worked out.
My TV remote, right?
Your TV remote, exactly. Thank you. I'm so glad you have some good at-home tools. Yeah, it's really good. And like, that's how we save our hands, right? Like, even if you're like, oh, my partner wants me to work on them, like, maybe don't do this motion all the time and do this, you know, like think about using your elbow as a pressure point or your fist as a pressure point. So like, might be a little hard for me to show just because I'm sitting, but like, let's say this is someone's body, you know, you're just going to kind of lean in and you don't have as much work to do. Like let your hand relax. Like You don't need to like hold anything. You're just going to kind of softly press into a glute or a thigh, or maybe the shoulder blade or something like that, just really gently, or with your fist. So that way, again, you're not, okay, I have to do this motion on you constantly. Like, we're all going to get tired if we did that motion. So thinking of
like 2 minutes in,
I'm over it. You're like, I'm done. I don't know. I'm bored. This is like not working. My hand now. Can you massage my hand now? You know, it's like, so being creative with like, okay, how do I use other tools? Even if you're like, I'm going to use the roller ball on my partner or my tennis ball or whatever, they can be laying down, getting their back worked, and you just have to kind of give them a press in with your hand resting on the ball, so you save your hands so you can do your other work in life, whatever that might be. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else to share. If you have any thoughts or questions of things that are coming up that maybe I can answer, Nicole?
I guess to summarize what I heard, the breathing, that movement and loosening, breathing, and specifically breathing into the spaces are all things that I didn't really think about. And I really love having this mental image of having a massage and having my therapist like flapping.
I do that. I'm waving at all the things in the room.
I'm drooling and they're waving. You know?
And we're waving at the wall, trying to let ourselves relax.
Yeah.
But on the body, it feels really good because you're like, oh, she's doing some cool move up there. That's so true.
I just love how you, I mean, I'm even looking at my mouse now. Now I'm like running around the house. Like, what can I use? I see my my vacuum hose.
Right? We can do like a little cupping session on yourself. All the tools that we need are actually in our house right now.
Yeah. I like that. And I think it's important I just have different options than this, you know, and
tons of different options than this. I mean, you could even take someone's arm. I love this tool. It's also kind of in that trigger department, but like if you're working on a partner, if you don't want to like do this to just yourself, you want to do it to your partner, like take your partner's arm or their leg and just like have them be shaking. Sometimes it's nice if you even drop the arm, like if you're in somewhere comfortable and soft, like drop the arm. Weight and gravity are amazing. So like, or movement, just like, hey, I'm going to stretch, like I'm going to take my partner or myself and just sort of move that into a different position than this.
I am like this all the time. Yeah, when you said that, I was like, oh my God, that's me.
Yeah, I'm like that all the time. And I feel like I tend to be that type of person, but I'm really trying to see that I'm probably even more in these moments because I am, you know, we're all concerned, we're all unsure, we're all these things, and all of that takes our like kind of upper chakras, if you want to go there, like to kind of go, I don't know, I need to close them all in. And then that really affects, I know for myself, I've been having some back pain, and that is affecting because I'm closing all my front muscles, I'm contracting everything in the front, and I'm stretching everything in the back. In exchange, I need to strengthen my back and allow for my front to be more open, more like expanding in exchange of that closing.
Yeah.
I think emotionally it'll be really good if we can do that for ourselves too, because we are in a time of unknown, but if we can figure out how to go, okay, we're in this, we're going to be okay in some way, shape, or form. How do I like open up and energetically let that come into the body as well?
Yeah, some careful moments of vulnerability is what that feels like to me, of just allowing a space and giving yourself permission. Like, okay, right now, if you're, I mean, obviously we're not going to be massaging ourselves if we're running from a bear. So wherever we're massaging, we're in a safe space. You know, maybe you're under a tree. You're in your living room, you're at your desk, and you notice, it's just like that. It's an invitation to notice, and it's an invitation to have a conversation with yourself or your partner, and like, where is it?
And I think it's also not being like, oh, I have to do this for 20 minutes. I have to do this for an hour. I have to do this for 7 minutes. Like, well, what part of that I showed you felt good to you? Did the shaking feel good? Did the stretching feel good? Does the trigger point work or the massage work? Like, what feels good? And you can do that for a few moments, or you can do that for a longer period of time. But knowing that like getting more movement into the body will help more blood flow kind of flow through it and pass through some of those muscles that are getting overly taut. And yeah, I think the breathing part is so important. I just wanted to tap on what you said, that breathing part, you know, maybe when you get massages, you hear your therapist be like, and take a deep breath. But like, really what we want you to do is breathe into that muscle more than we want you just to breathe into your belly. That's the way you get the muscles to really get their oxygenation really fully into that space, when you can go like, can you feel that? If you like, almost when I'm pushing on someone, I'll say, can you breathe into that as though you're pushing me off of you? And I think that's really important, because then it gets to that particular, wherever it is, the leg, the glute, the side, whatever, like that gets to that release. So yeah, I think the breath is a super pertinent, important part of massage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I hope all of you out there are now inspired to run around your house and find all the things. And yeah, play around a little bit, get creative. I found this too when you were talking about like rolling things, and I just have all these ideas now that I'm like, this.
You're like, all the things in my house, you're your little head tool. Exactly. Like there's so many things that like I said, somebody obviously created tools for self-massage that probably every one of us has in our home, but then getting creative. I love the mouse and the TV remotes and stuff like that, because we have them all. And like, how do you just use that to save your body and your hands to massage yourself? Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for this quick lesson and the reminder and an opportunity to practice some self-care and just, I hope everybody out there is taking care of, I hope you're taking care of yourself in some way, whatever that way might be, whether it's wandering into a salt cave on a rainy day in different times, or picking up your computer mouse and, you know, moving your posture. Jodie, I'm wondering how people can connect with you beyond this interview.
Yes, so we are at the moment, unfortunately, we are closed, but we are offering some really beautiful services that we're doing throughout, maybe more our social media pages is where they are right now, our Facebook and our Instagram. We're doing a lot of live little sound healings, massage tips, candle making, herbalism classes. So lots of different kinds of things that we're offering just to kind of keep people engaged and keeping the mindset sort of in a calm space. So you can tap into any of those. Our website, if you do want to jump onto that, is AshevilleSaltCave.com. And I'm working right now, we do have a Facebook store up and running, but I'm working right now on getting back to our online store for maybe some at-home spa packages, hand sanitizers, all the necessities of healthcare and self-care products that people are desiring for at the moment. So, yeah.
I love that. I know that, you know, going into the Salt Cave, you walk through kind of the shop and it is a treasure trove. All of these goodies, I'm really excited to learn that they're going to be online, because you can use salt in all these creative ways. Like you can have a little mini Salt Cave session at your house with the right materials. And I just love that. I love that we want to come to a specific space and you don't have to. There are tools available to you.
Yeah, we're definitely trying to make that a little more accessible with like cooking packages or spa packages, or bringing home kind of that Salt Cave experience into the home and giving you that, like whatever it looks like, 5 minutes or an hour or 2 hours of hopefully some kind of deep breathing and relaxation that you can be reminded of, like grounding yourself into.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, as usual, I will include all the links to all the things in the description so that you all can follow up and dive deeper if you're feeling drawn to. And just really appreciate you, Jodie, being here with us today. And
I appreciate you, Nicole, for hosting this. This is really lovely, and I'm really grateful to you guys for what you're doing.
Thanks. Yeah, and like Jodie said, if you want to tune in live to something, sometimes that's helpful to have a state, a time, like put it on the calendar. This is the time to practice some self-care or enjoy a sound meditation. And Salt Cave at home, right?
Yep, At Home with Asheville Salt Cave is kind of what we're calling this series. I love your little name though too. It's fun to hear everybody how they're like navigating this process.
It's so interesting, I know, there are so many opportunities out there to practice all these things, and y'all, you do not have to do all of them. All of these moments are invitations, and there's no shoulding. You don't have to make a mark of like, you have to do 5 self-care things. These are all opportunities and invitations, and it's okay if you take us up on none of them.
Exactly. Just be you and be good at you.
Yeah. The end message is just check in with yourself, and what do you need? What do you need to feel like you're living as well as you can now? What's available to you? And I just commend all of you who are watching for taking a moment to practice some self-care. I feel like that's really healing for the world, and appreciate that you're here with us, and we'll hope to see you next time.